Nina's here, and that could only possibly mean one thing.
Ish is going down.
Boogie 2988 must have committed another atrocity.
I don't even know those numbers. I just know he's Boogie.
Remember there was a documentary about Boogie, about maybe almost a year ago now. And Nina joined us for the first and only time on the podcast to talk about it because we had watched it together and we both had opinions. But again, neither of us watched Boogie, at any point in our lives.
The only internet thing relevant to my interests.
Yeah, which is what? Sad people. We got pinged a bunch of times. Boogie's back in the news. He's lied about having cancer. That's what we were told. He's lied about having cancer.
Turns out I got a rare blood cancer.
It's one of those things where the story goes on where there's a crypto scam involved. And so I was like, are we going to have to figure out what happened here? So I think I've got it all. Shall I summarize what I think has happened?
Yeah, sure.
Boogie, as we knew from the documentary, is hard up for money. He only has one way of earning money, which is online through some kind of entertainment.
Deceit.
Deceit and lies.
Again, this is a person who used to have a very popular channel. Now is kind of like just like a public embarrassment. Like everything related to him is embarrassing.
A lol cow, they would call him.
A lol cow. He has become a permanent guest. He has a slot in a kind of, what would you say, like a Howard Stern-esque kind of YouTube era podcast called Lol Cow Live, starring Keemstar, people like Destiny and Muda come on. But Boogie's there to be exploited and laughed at by cynical, crazy people.
It's a big exploitative mess.
A big exploitative mess. So, and this guy is all too happy to be exploited at this point because he needs the money. He's famous for being, the word they use to describe him is manipulative. He'll say and do things to pull at your heartstrings or to make you feel bad for him or to, just kind of get some brownie points for this or that. Like he'll lie to your face. Then he'll say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm such a liar. Yeah. I don't know, but I always kind of object whenever I hear people say that he's manipulative because I'm like, well, who's fallen for it? Anybody? He's not charismatic. Maybe some people find him charismatic. I do not.
Very, very off-putting.
He's still with his 21-year-old girlfriend. Last year she was 20, the one that seems very broken and is like obsessed with him. And remember when we were on here, we talked about how he seemed to be delighting in talking about his own mortality to her. Like, hey, not sure you're aware, but I'm going to die and it's going to be real sad for you, won't it? Tell me about how sad you'll feel when I'm dead.
He just wanted to see her cry. He wanted her to shed tears for him.
Yeah, it's really weird. Really freaky. Does anybody here remember, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in the documentary, was anything said about Boogie having cancer?
I don't think so. He did go through his health chart or whatever, but I don't remember.
I thought it was all cardiac. It was all like, I have diabetes or pre-diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Like my heart could just give out, and doesn't that make you sad?
Yeah. I'm going to die of stroke or heart attack by, am I going to make it past 50? Yeah. Am I going to make it past 60? Probably not. Just going to tell you the truth, 21-year-old.
It's like everything he says is like, I don't know. It just sounds like he's in a high school play or something. It's like a performance.
Apparently, I didn't know this until recently. In November 2022, so a year before the documentary came out, that's why I'm confused about the timeline here. He put out a video saying like, hey guys, remember I said I might have cancer? Lucky me. And he, did kind of a
tests are back. I definitely have cancer.
I got the results of the test back.
I definitely have cancer.
Yeah, it's true. I looked it up.
So I think what he was told by his doctor was that he has polycythemia, and probably secondary, according to Destiny, the credible source on all things, secondary polycythemia.
Yeah, my understanding is that polycythemia is a general term for you overproduce red blood cells.
Yes.
And there's a type of cancer where it's a cancer that causes you to do it, a blood cancer, and it has all kinds of other complications. But having polycythemia doesn't mean that you have polycythemia vera, the cancer.
Right, polycythemia vera versus secondary polycythemia. So I think it sounds like what happened was they said polycythemia in the doctor's office. He rushed home, Googled it. It said something about cancer, and he rushed to the camera and said, I got cancer.
Yes, that's exactly what seems like happened.
And he had other commentary
He's like, I can exploit this.
yeah, he's like, ooh.
Big dollar signs came into his big wide eyes.
But clearly knew he really didn't, if it's never mentioned in the documentary.
That's what's so curious.
Like, this was shocking to me to hear this. I was like, didn't we just watch a documentary? Is this new information?
He was like, so I told the doctor, I said, you know, if this kills me when I've been working on my obesity for 30 years, I'm going to be pissed, doc.
Well, the good news is it might just give me a stroke or a heart attack.
Which is how I was going out anyway. So he says, and it's of all the cancers, it's the best one to have because, you know, it could take 20 years to kill you.
Yeah, you could never catch on that I don't have it.
Yeah, I could just move on with my life with all of you thinking I have perpetual cancer. Not just that I am a cancer.
It's one of those perpetual cancers you don't have to prove.
Yeah, you don't have to prove or treat or anything.
Remember in Breaking Bad when Hank suspected nothing of Walt, then he goes to the toilet and he just opens the book and just that clue, just that small hint where he sees the poem and he's like, he puts the whole thing together. All you needed was like the inciting suspicion to put the whole thing together. Well, that's kind of what happened here. He's on this Locale podcast, Locale Live. And the controversy for a couple of days was that Boogie encouraged his fans to buy, you know, some transient crypto scam, a pump and dump, you know, try to get everybody to invest in it, drive up the value and then sell. And it's the kind that they try to get any influencer of any kind to back. And he went with it. And so the controversy was like, oh, he's pushing some crypto crap. And again, this is relevant because you'll remember he lost the majority of his YouTube money, you know, the $1 million he seemed to have. You lost it all to crypto after bragging about how crypto made him rich, but he lost it all to crypto. Now he's out there promoting crypto. Now this part I'm a little fuzzy on, and I apologize. Putting all the details of a thing like this together is difficult because it's from podcast clips and it's from Reddit posts, and it just gets a little too obnoxious.
Yeah, but there's like too much information.
It's too much information. But I think what happened was he used he invoked the cancer in some way to promote that people support him, that he needed the money. And this inspired Destiny, in particular, streamer Destiny, to say, does this guy even have cancer? And he said, hey, would you be willing to show us your medical records, your portal, anything whatsoever, actually, to prove that you have cancer? And
a piece of paper with the word cancer written on it would suffice.
Cancer. And
my diploma, my cancer diploma.
Cancer diploma.
I'm a doctor of cancer. And they raised $65,000 to encourage him. They'll give him $65K.
To encourage him. That's such a way to put it.
To encourage him to get it independently verified for the public that he in fact has cancer. And the more time went on,
and he did the thing that like the kid that's lying on the school bus says. He's like, I'll have my brother tell you.
Yeah.
I'll have my friend tell you. They'll tell you I have the cancer.
Talk to my girlfriend. She'll tell you.
Which, of course, was ridiculous because he refused to show the medical records. And his reasoning was, well, that's just medical records are a very private matter. I'm never going to show medical records. That's just too private. It's the one private thing I want in my life. But I will have my brother testify. And I will have. So it was like instead of him just saying, no, I'm not going to talk about this at all because of the privacy issue. He's willing to try to prove it outside of the actual objective proof that he's got.
The man who's been like naked in his bathtub with his girlfriend and his rubber duckies in the documentary is like, that's one step too far.
Yeah.
Showing you the cancer word.
Well, that's some of that manipulativeness that they're talking about where he's like, this is the one thing, guys. I'm so public. I'm so deeply public about everything else. Let me just have this.
Let me just have this lie.
Let me have this lie.
Let me just hide this, please.
And so like his brother went on the phone and said it. And then he got the poor girl to go on the stream with these vultures.
I'm very distressed every time I see her. She looked under duress. She looked like someone was like had like a gun to her head.
Well, there's a haunting moment where she's talking to them and they're all, these vultures are all interviewing her. And there's this haunting moment where Boogie's just his belly and tits come into frame. Where he's just standing there like waiting for her to finish the job. And to keep lying for him. And the poor girl, she doesn't have the ability to convince anybody of anything. I mean, how could you? And so instead she's like, I just don't know. It's an incredible piece of video where she starts going, I just have to support him. I know it makes no sense. I know nothing about this makes sense, but I just have to stand by him. I don't know.
I can't fight with him. I just have to stand by him, even though it may not make sense. It is what it is.
And that's when his belly and tits come in.
His belly and tits slowly go into the frame.
So the jig was up after a few go-arounds on this. And so he left the internet for a moment. He deleted Twitter, undeleted it later, did a big post. The Reddit post that when he came back was like, so the whole internet apparently says I lied about having cancer. So he kind of frames it like, well, I guess if the internet says so, it must be true. But it is.
Because the stages were like, I won't share that with you. It's still private. Then he came back and essentially said, okay, it was my misunderstanding. The doctor I couldn't fully understand him.
This doctor doesn't speak very good English. That's why I don't see him anymore.
Blame it on a foreign doctor.
Blame it on my Indian doctor.
He said, I did Google it and the Google search result said cancer. I may have exaggerated. I may not have heard direct confirmation. Okay, maybe you're right. Okay.
I haven't had the bone marrow tests yet.
I shouldn't have spoken about it so early. So he never had to completely be like, I lied about having cancer. He didn't ever, I think even to this moment, he hasn't quite admitted that, but he has this much of a point, this much, which is you hear a headline like he lied about having cancer. What that conjures is I'm going to go in front of the cameras and just pretend I have cancer versus like having a diagnosis that kind of could lead to or be misconstrued as. It's like a little different.
You think you want to let him off for exaggerating cancer instead of lying cancer?
It's just not quite what it sounds like. It's just a little, there's a line that can be drawn.
The line is like this.
Some lies are really, really malicious lies that come out of nowhere. Other lies are like, they're kind of baked into the truth and,
I just feel like it's so opportunistic. I feel like he saw his opportunity and like it became a full lie. Like maybe initially he was scared in the doctor's office, like he might have this cancer. Or, when he got home and started reading about it. But then it went on for years and was never mentioned in an entire documentary.
There were other tactics, like he did that thing where he started screaming. You ever see? You've met people in your life that when they're caught in a lie, they'll do this too. Like, they'll throw a big emotional reaction at you to scare you away from continuing to ask about it. So he was like I would never lie about cancer. This person I know died of cancer, and I would never lie about cancer. But,
and then he threatens to like unalive himself on the podcast.
Oh, did he?
He like stepped away to go.
He stepped away and he grabbed a knife.
Came back with something that they.
What was Keemstar doing during all this?
They blurred out. Keemstar was like, no. Destiny was like, do it. Prove it to us. He's never going to do it. And Keemstar was like, no, not on this show. We don't want to see that.
Yeah, I think he turned off everyone's cameras.
Obviously, he's weaponizing suicide, and that's not cool. But you're never going to hear me go, do it. Like, never.
No.
Oh, he did a fake cry at one point. He started crying. Anything to just like get me out of this. And yet he kept appearing on these shows. I think even this eventually became a new content, like new interest, like the cancer lying content.
Anything to keep himself in front of people.
Yeah. Holy shit. So all that having been said, the latest that I've seen is Keemstar fired him from the show. And he said, like, I'll let you back on the show if you tattoo the word liar to your face.
And he had to auction off his play button.
The play button, we'll sell that. We'll give it to charity.
They didn't know, like, should we auction it off to like a random person or should it go to this person or that person? He said, you're going to have liar tattooed to your face. And it was just like an idea. And Boogie, you can see he really kind of like embraces it and starts to really think it's like a fun idea and it's really going to be accountability. And it reminds me a lot of the shrooms situation. It's kind of like I'll do a stunt. I'll do a publicity stunt.
The shrooms didn't fix him?
Oh, right. Yeah. It cures
Did
cancer.
it cure the cancer? That's why. It's the one thing it did. And now he doesn't have it.
And he did it. He got liar tattooed to his face. And I'm sitting there going,
He did it?
You did it. Yeah. And he streamed it, and they're
Yeah.
all laughing. For Keemstar, it's all about their YouTube membership because they have all these YouTube memberships, and they're like, the members really want to see you do this. And
That's just grosser than Boogie.
I agree.
They're in a very weird parasitic relationship. it's
Boogie considered it. He was like, "This is going to be good. This is how this is how I'll forgive myself. This will be my punishment. This will be the accountability." So it's kind of like a bullshitty quick fix stunt.
oh yeah.
And all I can think as I'm watching it is, well, no, that's not accountability. First of all, obviously it's not, because it's just so stunty. But
Yeah, just ruining your face.
if you make, it's just ruining your face. But philosophically, if you make a horrible mistake, do you brand yourself with that mistake? Do you rename yourself liar? Do you rename yourself cheat? Do you rename yourself criminal? And now you're like, no,
In Link's Awakening, when you steal from the merchant, they rename you thief.
So maybe this is
Every character will start calling you thief after that.
But it does imply I can never be anything better.
Right.
I can never do good again. I can never be anything beyond this. Not that he ever had any ambition to, work retail or do anything productive with his life, but certainly now he's like, I'm just going to be the guy on the internet with liar tattooed on my face.
I read it as I'm going to lie again. And I don't plan on,
This is my brand.
I don't plan on not lying again. Whereas like, if you actually make a mistake, like you're meant to seek redemption. That's not how you address your brokenness, is by being like, broken. And
Or the harm that you've done in the world and on the internet and to your fans that you lied to.
You don't just dance for Keemstar.
The only one who profited was Keemstar from the whole thing.
It's quite nasty watching Keemstar like dance in the flames to the whole thing. I think it's all just rooted in like I talked about it the last time we talked about Boogie. It's like a survival thing for him to go from kind of like feel bad for me, feel bad. He's the guy that you ever meet somebody who they have a bad day and they kind of like rush to talk to you about their bad day to be coddled, because they know they'll receive sympathy for having a bad day.
He's just constantly trying to manufacture his own like face and heel turns.
Yeah.
He's trying to give it to you, give you a show.
And it does give you a show. And like, I want the show to stop. I know. I know we're talking about it now, but it's just deeply, because the fact is even though he's threatening you with his death, he will die eventually. And this will be what he left behind,
Yeah. It's tragic.
Yeah, not great. And it's certainly not great for that girl. I hope. I was watching the H3 podcast. They're like, do you think she needs to get out of there? Should we send money? Should we, is there like does she just need they were like, we don't want to set a precedent for like paying for her life or something, but does she need like a flight home?
Paying for transportation, getting a hotel, whatever you need.
Nice.
Let's get you out of there.
Is that something we could pay for? So you wanted us to talk about it. We've talked about it. What else is there to say?
It's so sad. What a downer.
It is. It is.
He probably doesn't have cancer though, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I certainly don't think he has cancer by some miracle.
He's a survivor. This is a survivor story.
That's Boogie.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.